Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Kev. And we were so busy chatting backstage about what we're going to talk about tonight that we almost forgot to start the show. But Mr. Green is in the house saying, "Come on, start." We are starting, mate. Good man. And James has already got his coffee ready for a good chat about the Villa. And that's exactly what we want to have, Kev. First of all, before we get into it, how are you doing? All good?
All good, mate. I've got my mixed it up tonight. I've got my Christmas mug with a chamomile tea because, would you believe it, I've run out of peppermint.
Oh, dear.
Apologies to everybody. The reason why we were actually late tonight was not because we were talking about what we need to do. It's because we were just about to start and we thought, I know what we'll do. We'll get Austin McPhee to set us up to start the show. And basically, Rich ran outside the house, then came back in. I went and put the wash on. We just faffed around for 5 minutes and then we got going. But that might be a talking point for later on, Richard.
It might be a certain poll that you put out earlier might get in there. Michael is actually in Koh Samui, Thailand, seeing the impact of Villa here. Very heartwarming. Of loads of locals have stopped me to talk Villa when I'm wearing the Villa shirt.
Sweaty cup, Michael. Sweaty cup.
And he should be fast asleep. He said, we actually had someone comment, actually, for I think it was my match reaction from the Ipswich game or something, who watches from Thailand. So that's really good. That great stuff. Good to see us spreading far and wide with the Villa Park podcast.
Yep.
So, Kev, I don't want to talk we might talk Liverpool a little bit later, but I kind of want to do the preview for Liverpool tomorrow, whether we do a recording or whether we do a live. I really want to talk about what is happening at Aston Villa at the moment.
Oh, okay.
That's the question.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Good for the audio listeners, isn't it? So, well, it's easy to look at this, right, in terms of I guess to sort of cast the net across with one big answer, which is we've just struggled with Champions League football. Teams have worked us out a little bit, and the league has got more competitive. We know that's been said by the likes of Pep Guardiola, that actually, some of the points holes in recent years aren't going to happen because there's a lot more improvements from a lot of the teams in the league, so therefore more points being taken off. But in terms of obviously what we as Villa fans are seeing is just consistent inconsistency. I think is the best way to look at it. Consistent inconsistency. And we've got the ability to get up for a big game, as we've proven this season, because we've beaten Juventus. I'm taking that as a win, by the way. All in as much. We've beaten Bayern Munich. We've beaten Man City. We've come back from 2 down away to Arsenal. We've had some really good performances, wins against Leipzig. David Moyes, I think, only defeat as his Everton return was obviously against Villa away. So we've proven we can get some good results in this league. West Ham away, etc., etc. But when it's a team we're supposed to beat, not only do we not beat them, but we also throw away leads, throwing away points, or we flat to deceive. We can't beat 10 men. We can't beat the low block. There's just so many things we can go into more detail on. And I just think it's for me to summarize my views on it. I think the structure that Unai wants them to play sometimes, as he talked about at the weekend, they can get caught up with the crowd wanting them at home games, particularly to want them to be a bit more succinct, get on with it a little bit. I also think there's been a drop off still consistently from quite a few of the big players that have played such a high part in previous years. But for me, the biggest of all is the lack of goals in the team. Whether that's defense, midfield, there's really hardly anything coming. And then therefore, if you're going to miss big chances, which Watkins misses a hatful, combine those 2 points together and then add a sprinkling on top of this particularly crap cake of defensive errors, and you've got a recipe there for a 7th to 10th place finish in the league.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we're going to cover some of the things in defence, some of the issues that we want to highlight in defence, some of the general statistics that we might want to cover. But let's start with the goals or the lack of goals, and let's talk about the kind of big chances, and we want to talk about all that kind of stuff. And we were chatting before we came on air about, yes, Ollie Watkins, I think it's 11 Premier League goals or maybe 12 Premier League goals, I'm not 100% sure, and then one in the Champions League. So he's 5 seasons in a row at hitting double figures, but he's at the top for the highest big chance, most big chances missed at 21. I think it's Erling Haaland behind him on 18 or something like that. But which is obviously something that needs to be improved upon. However, when you kind of think about it, the more important thing around that is that the pressure that is placed on him to put all those chances away is so great because there's no one scoring any goals behind him. We just went through it before. I think Ramsey's got 1 in the Premier League. Morgan Rogers has obviously contributed. He's the main contributor as it stands now because we've lost John Duran. John McGinn has got no goals in the Premier League. Yuri Tillemans has got 1 goal in the Premier League. Who else have we got that should be contributing? Leon Bailey's got 1 goal in the Premier League. Onana's got 3, and Barkley's got 2 or 3.
Barkley's got 3, and Onana's got 2.
Contributors from the midfield. If you're not getting goals from anywhere else in the pitch, I mean, our centre backs hardly score. We're going to talk about the corners in a minute, but none of our centre backs seem to score any goals from corners. Our fullbacks don't seem to be scoring at the moment. So where are our goals going to come from? Because that's what takes the pressure off someone like Ollie Watkins, who we know misses big chances. We know needs a couple of chances every game to score a goal. We know he's not very good at doubling up with his goals in games. So those goals have to come from elsewhere on the pitch. We used to score goals in bunches last season, the season before. Now it's like, yes, we might get the first goal. Then we kind of maybe get the second goal, but we seem to get pegged back because we don't keep a clean sheet. We'll talk about the defence in a minute. And then, or we miss loads of chances or miss 2 or 3 good chances or don't really play as quickly or dynamically as we want. And then we get caught with a sucker punch and then have to go chasing and being desperate to try and score a goal. And at the same time, now we're trying to integrate 3 new players into the side in terms of attacking positions in Marlon, Asensio and Rashford, who, with the best win in the world, you can't expect, they have been great, don't get me wrong, but you can't expect them just to come in and just start scoring goals left, right and centre.
Well, it seems to be the only way we're going to get back into a game at the moment because those 2, Asensio and Rashford, had the best opportunities to try and get that 3 points that we desperately needed at the weekend. I'll give you the stats. I've got the stats here from ESPN site, which is Watkins has got 11, Duran 7. Obviously, he's now no longer with our parish. Morgan Rogers has got 6, and then the next top scorer is Ross Barkley, who is a non-starting midfield player who's been out injured a fair bit of the season as well. Onana's got 2 in the league, and then it's Tielemans, Konza, Bailey, Ramsey, and Cash with 1 goal each. That's it. There's no goals from Digne, McGinn, Maatsen, Torres, Kamara Buendia, maybe less so with the injuries, but Kamara's played a bit. Diego Carlos played quite a bit of the season. Mings has had a few games now. It's a situation where it is going to cost you. It is going to cost you. I mean, I remember saying probably going back maybe 2 or 3 months that I felt there was a combination of with the Watkins-Duran debate, why Watkins-Duran was like, well, maybe Duran's the guy we need to move forward with, was because Duran was scoring loads of worldies. Really, like the XG on those would be pretty low.
Yeah.
And Duran therefore was seeming like he was, the guy. And Watkins was missing a lot of big chances, and put those 2 points next to each other. Duran's clearly the answer. And that point is actually exacerbated now when we see Duran in the Farmers League skipping past a couple of like bang average defenders and banging one, and we're thinking, oh my god, if only he was doing that for us, forgetting that there's slight differences in terms of the league quality. But I just think there's a lot of points that are really highlighted now. I mean, if you look at that goal return from a midfield, I mean, look, remember what Louise did last season, remember what Diaby did last season. Wasn't crazy numbers, but it was significant numbers. And you'd be expecting now I know some of them haven't played all season, but if you look at some of the games per goals ratios there, and I know some of this is sub appearances, but it's like Buendia had 12 games, Carlos had 10, Torres 18, McGinn 21, 0 goals, Digne 25, 0 goals, Cash 16, 1, Ramsey 17, 1, Bailey 20, and then 1 goal. Tielemans 25 games, 1 goal. I mean, it's just not good enough, and it's gonna cost you. And I think another reason why this is just to add a bit of fuel to this fire, is that we arse about with set pieces more than I wish we would now. I know we've had success in the past, and we don't shoot enough from outside the box. And you add those 2 points together, I think you're going to get less of those sort of second balls. When you think about some of the goals we scored this season, think about that comeback against Arsenal, great delivery into the box. I know it wasn't from a set piece, and then bang, a header. Think about some of the times that we've snatched victory. Ross Barkley getting that goal from a distance deflected shot against Leipzig. There's Barkley against scoring. Was it against Bournemouth when he struck that one really well in the or maybe I can't remember who it was. One of the games we scored, well, not one from outside the box.
Leicester,
yeah,
Leicester.
Struck it really well. I mean. I just think we're trying to almost that tiki-taka Barcelona, Arsenal style of football. Intricate pass, it doesn't work. Go around the other side of the pitch. Keep going, keep going, keep going. That's all right if you 1 or 2-0 up. But if you're 0-0 to 10-man Ipswich, and then you 0-1 to 10-man Ipswich, I'd like us to be a bit more direct. And this is going to sound mental, but I don't feel like we've got a plan B. And sometimes you need a plan B, but I know Emery isn't one for plan B. Emery's one for plan A every time, on repeat, keep going, and it'll work most of the time. But sometimes when we just put it in the box, we've got Sassy, Mings, Rogers is a unit. You've got Ollie Watkins. Obviously, at times you've had Torres and Konza and Onana and Barkley. Get it in the box and see what happens, because it's just not working at the moment.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? So there's a couple of points. We used to love it how Emery and Villa would play with these set moves and these set kind of passing sequences, and we'd be like, "This is brilliant." No, the players are actually coached on the training ground, and they're actually emulating that on the pitch, and we loved it. And don't get me wrong, there was times on Saturday where some of the passing and some of the movement was out of this world. It was the finishing that was the problem. So in a lot of ways, that isn't the issue. But the first question, and then I'll come to a second question relating to the kind of like height and putting balls into the box. But the first question is are we getting a little bit found out with some of the passing sequences and some of the kind of set moves that we play? Because it seems to be that if there is a slight misplaced pass in some of those set moves, it seems that teams are so quick now to be incisive through us, either by a long ball over the top or a couple of passes, and they're straight through onto us. So our team's wising up to the fact that we have got these set moves, and we'll commit players forward, and then because we might be slightly off key with one of the passes, it's putting us under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, well, we have to remember there are some good coaches in this league and some good players, and it's exactly that. It's capitalising, and we talk about Emery having a plan, and he's had a plan many times for many teams, which we've outscored and out-tacticked other managers and other teams. But other teams will have exactly that situation now. They'll know that we're pretty porous in defence, and we're really vulnerable to the transition counter-attack, as everyone calls it now. And it happens time and time again. I mean, we remember going back to that Liverpool game where it just felt like they were just marauding on our goal every time we had a corner. And that is pretty bad. You don't see that in the Premier League a lot, particularly away from home, that a team has an attacking corner and then they're straight away vulnerable to that level of counter-attack, unless they're overcommitting players. So it's something to do with the setup, obviously. I just think it's a combination of many factors today. It really is. And you can have a bad day, can't you, if you wear shorts and t-shirt and you forget your umbrella and it starts raining, like a combination of things. And then someone goes through a puddle and then you lose your phone. Like, it's a combination of things making us have a bad day. But generally we're pretty happy. But you know what, as well, I know for a fact that when we beat Liverpool on Wednesday, and I really do think we will, we'll be looking back and go, remember when we were getting all mardy after the Ipswich game? Because we've done it before after Wolves. We've done it after Bournemouth, 97th minute equaliser.
But I think that's what's going to piss people off even more. Like, we shouldn't be I was thinking about this today, right? I was thinking about this on my walk into work, and I was like, if I'm doing a match reaction to a victory against Liverpool, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be pissed off
Yeah.
because you can't turn up. You can't just turn up in those games, and it makes Villa look tin pot. It makes us look like the underdog, and we shouldn't be the underdog. We
Not
should be
anymore.
the team that should be beating the likes of Ipswich and the likes of West Ham at home and the likes of Man United at home and even Bournemouth at home. Yes, they're doing really well. Or Ipswich away. We should be beating these teams, and then we should be coming to against the teams like Liverpool and saying, right, we are on the same, we are almost or at, almost at that level. We're competing at that level. We're not like, oh, it's going to be a massive atmosphere. The fans are going to be up for it because we're the underdog. I'm sick of that. We're in the Champions League top 8. We've qualified for the Champions League last season. We shouldn't be having a situation where we're going into a game and we're kind of like up for it because Villa are the underdog in that game. Like, it shouldn't be like that anymore.
Yeah, I know. I mean, as Kevin says in the chat, we will be absolutely ecstatic, of course. Kev, we will, no doubt about
I'll
it.
be pissed off. I guarantee
Yeah.
I'll be pissed off.
It'll be pissed off and ecstatic at the same time. But
Yeah.
It's because obviously it would be an unbelievable achievement. I think this is the longest away record of a new manager since John Gregory. I think it was going back about 25 years for Arne Slot. So it would be a hell of a performance for Villa to do it. If you remember back to that Ipswich pre-match, I was absolutely, wholly, totally confident of a convincing victory against Ipswich. Not just a victory. I felt with the kind of the boost we had of obviously the FA Cup game, the new guys coming in, point to prove. I just felt like we'd have too much from it, and I thought we would have learned from what happened at Portman Road as well. My God, I mean, it was turgid first half, like one big chance for Watkins, and then next thing you know, you're 1-0 down. And this is the thing for Villa right now, where these players, I think, have got to have a look at themselves, because let's not forget, right? We nearly balls up the Champions League. We did. At 2-2 against Celtic at one point, we were 13th in the league, and I know we turned it around. And big thanks to Morgan Rogers. And listen, I think we played well second half against the lesser team.
Yeah, we did.
At home. Credit where credit's due. But the balls up wouldn't have actually been conceding those 2 goals to Celtic. It would have been the performances, abject performances away in Monaco and Bruges. You can get up for beating Leipzig. You can beat Bayern Munich. You can outplay Juventus and should have won that one, other than a terrible VAR decision. But you can't. It doesn't even look like you're going to beat Monaco or Bruges. I mean, how many chances do we have in either of those games? And this inconsistency is looking like at the moment it's going to have a real chance. Maybe for some fans already has cost us finishing in the top 5. I don't think it's over yet. In the words of Lenny Kravitz, it ain't over until it's over. But if we keep going at this rate, and other teams around us, I looked at the results at the weekend. I thought, oh, brilliant, Newcastle lost, but that meant Man City won. Fulham won. Oh, God, yeah, that means they're catching up on us. And Bournemouth keep getting results. And I know Forest have lost, but they're a heap of points ahead of us. And there's a lot of teams now to get in between. And I almost feel like when people used to say years ago, oh, I think Blues will get relegated. The argument I used to say, but there's a lot of teams between. I know they're terrible, but there's a lot of teams between them and the 3rd relegation spot. And it's the same argument for us now, looking the other way. We're not that far off, but there's a lot of teams to get past. And if you can't get past those, you might get past a couple of them. But the thing you need to do to get past them is be consistent, and B, beat the teams that you, in inverted commas, should be beating. To take 2 points off Ipswich in 2 games is an absolute disgrace for a team of this caliber, who've got aspirations to be, a top four team. It's just not good enough, particularly when they had 10 men for an hour or so of the home game, and we were leading in the away game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I have to disagree with the top 5, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I want to go through some comments. I'm so sorry. It's been like 20 odd minutes that we haven't, but we've just been cracking on with the conversation. I've starred loads of questions as well, so we'll get into them. Jason in says, up the Villa, always we trust. Rich, who's been a member now for 15 months, top man, absolutely amazing stuff. Rashford and Asensio must start. Emery Ball, yes, we'll talk about that. In terms of rounding off the attacking sort of debate, is, like, what are the answers? What can Emery do, basically? Gary says, good that there are more teams up there, but feels like a chance missed to get Champions League football again. Bear on the gun, I'll come to your question later. Gary also said Champions League is quarterfinal at best for me. FA Cup is our best bet for Europe. Rich said we need to start winning games and keeping clean sheets. And Gary said don't need Ramsey and Rodgers in the team for him. Need pace down each wing. So that might give us a hint as what we're going to talk about. We have to play a lot of the teams that are above us in the league. So there's going to be a lot of 6-pointers. We string a few wins together and confidence and momentum comes back with us. We can still get Europe. Gary said, I missed the long shots of Duran. Anyone else is hopeless. Stephen says, that's what is frustrating. Just put it in the box. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And Kevin says, no, Richard, if we beat Liverpool, you'll be ecstatic. But Stephen says, right on, Rich, we need more consistency. And Rich Edwards said he agreed. We're a Champions League club. Gary also said Bournemouth for the team of the season, 10 first teamers out and look at them. And he also said, hopefully Arnie won't terminate us, says Gary. PJJ said, we get enough of that from the media in their top 6 bias. If us, Bournemouth or Forest played Man United tomorrow, we should be favourites. More consistency would drive that home. And I'll come to your question in a minute, Dickie. That's a good question. Rona said, the truth is we're now totally dependent on others continuing to drop points for us to finish top 5. Dristos says we lost an amazing opportunity for top 5 the last 3 matches. Chelsea, Newcastle and Forest all lost 2 out of 3 and we played 3 teams at the bottom 5 of the table and we got 2 points. It's not good enough. And Richard says, just wait till we crash out of the cups. Please Leeds now winning 2-1 against Sunderland as well. So the point I wanted to make, and I know you did a bit of a poll on Twitter around kind of, the set pieces and messing around with it around the box and all that sort of stuff and getting it in the mixer. My only issue is that, yes, we've got these big players when they're all fit, and we still had, big players in the box on Saturday in the likes of Disassi and Mings. My problem is I don't see us attacking the ball. There was an occasion on Saturday where I think we played one of the shorter corners, and then it might have been a free kick, and it was dinked to the back post to Disassi, and he just let the defender get in front of him and clear it, and I'm like, you're right in front of the goal or just to the left of the goal. Why aren't you putting your body on the line to get a header on that? And there was 2 or 3 crosses in the first half that flashed across, and I'm not seeing any striker. I'm not seeing Watkins. I'm not seeing Rodgers throw themselves at the ball to try and get the head on it or put in their head where it might hurt. I don't. So throwing it in the mixer is all well and good, but I'm not seeing us attack the ball. I'm not seeing us try and put our body on the line to score a goal. Now, whether that's 2 minds, because they don't want to put themselves out injured, we've got a few players out injured or what, but yeah, I don't know if you've noticed it, whether it's just anecdotal, but I know Tielemans threw himself at the header against Arsenal, but I haven't recalled us, putting much, on the line or throwing ourselves in or at risk of banging into the keeper or banging into the post to try and score a goal, to try and get on the end of a cross.
Yeah, I think that physicality in terms of that impact, sort of initiation, doesn't always seem to be there. Whether that's a tactic and they'd rather sort of, I don't know, work it a different way, but when you think about how Arsenal sometimes attack their set pieces, and they're all sort of marauding in, and I always think back over the years. You think about some of those teams; it was often lesser teams, and then you'd get a Gareth McCauley for West Brom just tearing a header past someone, or a Ryan Shawcross, or a Bednarek at Southampton, which you think he must have done against us a couple of times. Whipped in free kick, bang, massive guy heads it in. Don't seem to do that very often, do we? I can't remember many situations where I know Watkins has crashed in a couple of headers and Duran has, but I can't really think of many situations where we've done that. But I don't know. I just think you've got to look at what is they'll obviously have the stats on this, but if someone can tell me otherwise, but I can't imagine our stats for creative free kicks have been that great this season. Maybe they have. I just think when you're in a situation where, the team's up against it.
We had 10 corners, I think, at least 10 corners on Saturday. I don't think we managed to get a shot or anything of note off of any of those corners. I think there was a game couple of weeks before where we had multiple corners, didn't get anything out of it, and it gets farcical at times where we try this short one, and the player who's receiving it doesn't even know that they're going to receive it because we've messed around with it so often. And then you're thinking, as a striker, you must be thinking, what are we doing here? Like, I've just ran up from the halfway line to try and get on the end of a cross, which I'm not going to inevitably get on the end of, but at least I'm getting in the box. And then we're farting about with it on the around 3 or 4 passes on the edge of the box and letting players get organised and and trying to and getting ready to head it out. It's just so bizarre. But as I say, we don't seem to get a run on any of the defenders. We don't seem to. We had 16 corners on Saturday.
Yeah, do you know what else I couldn't believe as well? That one when you're on about where it was dinked to Disassi at the back post. Why didn't we shoot? It's on the edge of the box. Well, I thought, who out of ideally Rashford, Tielemans, who's gonna whip this one or bang it at the keeper? Maybe get a rebound. Look what happened obviously on the goal. Hit the bar, rebound in, and we tried a clever one. Oh, a clever one's great when it works, isn't it? It works, but I can't remember many times this season. I can't remember many times this season at all. The only one I can remember last, and someone can tell me otherwise in the comments, was one against Leicester, where we did that clever free kick and Ramsey sort of took it in his stride and fed it across the box for Onana's long limbs to sweep it in for the first goal against Leicester away. But I can't think of many of the situations where we've done a creative free kick and it seems to work.
The problem is you remember the ones that work, but the only reason why you remember them is because hardly any of them ever work.
Yeah,
it's like everyone remembers Roberto Carlos's free kick in La Tournoise because it never happens.
Yeah.
So, why do we keep trying it? Why do we keep trying these intricate little corners that don't work?
Yeah, shots at goal will lead to second balls bouncing off the keeper, won't they?
Yeah, put the ball in the box, cause a bit of chaos. There's a reason why teams who are 1-0 down or trying to get a winner would bring their goalkeeper up into the box with the last kick of the game. There's a reason why they do it, because it causes chaos, because it causes disorientation with the defense. You might bounce down, you might get a poor clearance, something like that. Now, granted, your delivery has to be good, right? And some of our deliveries are just terrible. But at least try and get a run on your defender. At least try and move in the box. By the time the ball's been passed to Bailey or to Tielemans or to Marlon or to whoever, and then passed back to them, it's the momentum's gone. It's not even as if anyone's making a late run into the box. They're just standing there, and then you're trying to jump from a standing start. It just doesn't work. Anyway, yeah. I'll just rant on it. I could rant all day about it. But yeah, it's just Rich said frustrating, screaming at the TV most games.
Yeah.
Kevin said Rashford on free kicks, it's a no-brainer.
It is.
Dristos said we're quite passive in defence too. Set pieces and crosses, players don't attack the ball. Gary, 16 corners and nothing. T-Banger said we had Mings and Disassi this time. They have real height, but the delivery from the corners and free kicks has been wanting. Yeah, I do agree. Missed Louise's delivery from the dead ball. Villaman says, got to blame the coaches for that, including the gaffer that's letting it happen and is happy with it, apparently. And yeah, it's poor. It's poor. So, just to round this off, how do we solve this? Because Rich said, Asensio and Rashford to start. Is it as simple as that? Is it as simple as a couple of fresh, obviously they're wonderfully talented players. Is it a case of, freshening it up in more attacking areas, to inspire us to score more goals?
Well, I think it is that, but I also think it's playing players in the right position. And I think we've been hurt this season by Kamara not playing in centre mid, and obviously he's now out for a couple of weeks. But I think that's hurt us in recent games. And Consa right back, see for the same sort of argument there. So that's, I think, been an issue. And of course, when you add to that, then some of the injury issues you've had, I think we sometimes miss the calmness of Ross Barkley late in games. I think he's made a big difference this season when he's come on, just sort of, maybe slowing it down to the point where you can't, being a bit more patient rather than trying to rush it as much. The obvious answers are bringing the 2 January signings, and I think Marlon, the way he's played, probably deserves a start as well. and you work a system out where you get all three of them in. There may be Marlon on the left. Well, maybe Marlon. I don't know. Can you get them all three in the team with Watkins? Probably can if you're creative with it, but you may be having to play Rashford in a slightly different position. Maybe you bring him on off the bench and you keep him Rodgers behind. But either way, like I think Asensio and Rashford are the obvious. All Villa fans are hoping, aren't they? They're hoping that this is going to be the answer to the problem. But we saw them get a decent amount of time against Ipswich, 10 men Ipswich, and we couldn't get over the line. I mean, look, their keeper did have an absolute worldie, and I think this season, again, this might be totally BS from me, but I feel like a lot of keepers have had absolutely blinders against us. I don't know. We have not, it feels like we've not had a lot of chances, as many as we could have, but it feels like there's been some games where I've thought, how have you managed that? Do you know what I mean? Is that just me? Is it?
Yeah, the Bournemouth keeper. I remember the Bournemouth game. That keeper had an absolute worldie. I think he was the second or third choice keeper, and that was a frustrating one. And look, in an isolated game, we didn't actually play badly against Ipswich. It's more about the result more than the performance, because I think we actually played quite well. And obviously, they scored with their one chance, which again we're going to talk about in a second. But yeah, it could be that it's that. And let's talk the defense before we get into that, because it's all interlinked. The reason why I'm going to say that, it's all interlinked. But please, guys, do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We got past 5,300 subscribers today, which is brilliant. So thanks for your support. Heading on to 6K, which is amazing. So please do hit the like button if you haven't already. We're getting up to 200 in the chat very, very soon. So it's got more people joining us on tonight. So make sure you smash the like button. Help us spread the word of the channel. Follow us on X at Villa Park Pod, at KTAVFC, and make sure you retweet and all that sort of jazz to help people join us and listen to us and get your comments flying in. Richard said Rashi left, Marlon right, Asensio behind Ollie. And Pace he's also said that. So yeah, it's, and a lot of people talking about, the goalkeepers. Villa Man says keepers are a joke against us, Kev. They're on smoke. Kevin says they do have goal worldies against us. You're right. So it is probably a combination of all of it. But in terms of the defense, now let's get the mitigating circumstances out of the way. In terms of injuries to centre back positions, we probably haven't really played too much at what would probably be our first choice centre back partnership of, would it be Konsa and Pau Torres? I would say we haven't played that too much this season. We've actually had 10 centre-back partnerships this season, obviously one of them being in the Carabao Cup of Swinkles and Bo Harder, so you kind of dismiss that one. But, we've ultimately at times had 2 or 3 centre-back partnerships in the same game. So let's get that mitigating circumstance away, because you're having to, try and patch up defences, trying to get relationships with players set up together. And we've kind of talked about the breakdown in some of our attacks and being quite open moving forward. But, what is the reason why we seem to be conceding these, team's first chance on target? What's the reason for that? What's the reason for us fullbacks not putting their bodies on the line? We talked about putting bodies on the line and attacking the ball. What's the deal with fullbacks just letting players put crosses in? The basics of defending, it doesn't really matter who you've got in defence or who you've got as your centre-back partnership. If you're not putting your body in the way of the ball, then that's got nothing to do with where you're playing. That's just basic football.
Yeah, well, I think there's probably a little bit of that times when we can look back and think that that player could have done more to either run back to stop the cross or put their body on the line. I do think that there's been probably the quality of chance we've given away has been, a decent, as is, the football lingo now, XG, decent expected goal in terms of the quality of the chance. There's been a couple of situations, and this might sound like a bit of sour grapes and excuses, where I think we've had a bit of bad luck with crosses being deflected by us trying to block it and then going straight to one of their players. And it's happened. I can think of a couple of times that's happened this season as well. I think we've also had players just doing fantastic finishes, and that finish from Delap is a great finish. He's getting there first. It's the only place he can really put it from that angle to get it away from the keeper, bending away, getting past the defenders. It's a fantastic finish. And sometimes players good players. Delap is a good player. Wouldn't mind him in a claret and blue shirt in the summer.
He's
Can,
all right.
can do that. Well, he's, you know
Half a
what
good
he is.
season.
He's if he keeps this going, a player like that, he's a handful, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But we always do this about. We'll say that Watkins is crap, and then we'll say in the same breath we'll say we want Liam Delap, but he's nowhere near Ollie Watkins' quality.
I'm not saying.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying that's what people do. Like, you know, people will say, I don't know, every winger that we come up against, they were a handful, they were brilliant, but then, then they don't really do much, and they're not that great. But yeah, he is a good player. I'll give you that. He is a good player, and he was a handful. He has been a handful against us a couple of times. He seems to have the bit between his teeth when he plays against us. Yeah. However, how is Ian Maatsen not even before he lets the cross in? How are you letting a player have 5 touches of the ball before he then decides to try and take it past you and then put the ball in the box? How are you not just putting a tackle in? I'd have rather him try and put a tackle in and the player beats him with a bit of skill. He just let him touch and play it back. Foul him, smash into him, do something, take a yellow card. It's soft. And Luca Dean's exactly the same on the other side. I can't really tell you about Garcia. Consa constantly lets crosses in when he's playing at right back. I don't understand what it is of the fullbacks these days that the first job should be to defend and should be to stop the cross. Whether they've done their hair before they've come out and they don't want to get it, they all have these private barbers and all that, whether they don't want to mess their hair up. I don't know what it is. Or they don't want to take one in the face because they've had the teeth done in Turkey or whatever. Put your body on the line. Criticize him all you want, but Gary Neville used to be, he would hardly ever let crosses in. Dennis Irwin, all those players, I know we're going right back here, but the art of defending as a fullback is completely gone. You've got to stop the cross. You don't know what will happen. You've just said it yourself. Deflections, poor clearances, someone misses it, someone dummies it, someone flicks it on. You don't know what happens. You have to stop the cross at source, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, there's question marks over a few of ours. I do wonder whether Unai's patience with Maatsen might get to a point where he might not be with us for that long, because I think he's been offensively when he's on it, he's great, isn't he? He's direct, he cuts inside, he can be brilliant. But we've seen that the key part of his game, which should be defensive, has been a bit poor at times. I think he's not been defensively sound really much this season, and that's a weakness. It really is a weakness. And if you think about the situation we've had, obviously on the right flank most of the season, where we've had someone playing out of position, the whole point of these attacking wing backs is they at least bring enough going forward compared to maybe what you lack at the back. But I don't think in terms of Maatsen and Cash, they've brought enough going forward this season. Dini's had his moments. Dini's had his moments, but I don't think good crosses. But he hasn't scored, as we discussed earlier. Cash has got one, and defensively it's bad. And then when you've got a patched up centre back duo, maybe aren't used to playing together. Maybe there was a bit of that in terms of who's actually picking up Delap, when that cross was coming in. And I just think that is a recipe for frailty in that defence, and that's what other teams will capitalise on. It's a situation where it's one of those other scenarios we've said where there's just a combination of factors, and when it feels like the luck's against you, I think every Villa fan, when Delap scored, was thinking, please be offside. Saw the cross go to the wide player. Yeah. He's not offside. It's going to be a goal. Right, is there enough time to get back into it? And then start to realise that, what, maybe there's not. And it's just a hugely frustrating time.
Yeah, the thing is, I can put up with strikers missing chances because they get into those positions, and obviously if it's a ridiculous chance, then fair enough. But what I can't put up with is basics. I can't. The whole money argument and all that. It doesn't matter. It's about basics. It's about putting your body on the line, putting tackles in, stopping crosses, making sure your passing's correct. It's like 5-10 yard passes. If you try and elaborate passes, or you're trying something that is, a skill, or that's why I have more kind of sympathy at times for wingers, because they're actually trying to do something that is out of the ordinary. They're doing something to create and they're 1v1 against a very, very, very good defender most of the time. So that's why I have a little bit more sympathy with it, because they're against someone who's trained in just to do the basics. Stop your man, stop him from getting past you, and win the ball. If you're playing against Ian Matson on that form, you just go past him at will, because he just lets
Yeah.
you go past him. That's just unforgivable. That's basic football, and that's what I can't put up with. Or letting the ball bounce, that's another pet hate. Letting the ball
Oh,
bounce, not picking the ball, that kind of stuff, and that's what annoys me. And whether someone should be getting hold of him and having a go at him. You don't see people bollocking people on the pitch. Whether he should be being coached, to do it properly, like whether he actually wants to do it. That's the other point. Does he want to do it? And against teams like Ipswich, against teams like um, West Ham, even against teams like Wolves, you've got to earn the right to play. You have to earn the right first, and then your quality comes through, because you're a better team. You've got better players. You've got to compete with them first. Show that you're stronger. Show that you're fitter. Show that you're more physically able than them, and then then your football will come through. We kind of let them. The first 10 minutes we were all right. We did this exactly the same against Wolves. We do this all the time against Newcastle, albeit a much better side, but we do it all the time. We don't compete. We think we can just play our little way of playing. We think we can do these set moves, and we just get absolutely schooled. And then all of a sudden, we concede in sloppy goals, silly goals, and then our lack of character comes through. But then when we come up against a Man City, when we come up against a Liverpool, we're the underdog. It's like, right, let's get the bit between our teeth. We're going to show
yeah,
them. We're going to be all over them. And that's what annoys me. You've got to do the
yeah.
basics in the games that you should be winning.
Yeah, that underdog position was something I thought we got rid of in the last couple of years. We were showing ourselves to be a real top team. With that 15 game consecutive run at home wins, culminating obviously in the Man City and Arsenal games, was just absolute peak Villa, wasn't it? Really, in recent times, in terms of actual consistency of performances, and then since then it's been bitty. We've been better, admittedly, at home this season. Obviously we've certainly still only been the defeat
Yeah,
in the
we
league.
have, we have.
Well,
But someone, I was listening to the Villa podcast, the Irish lads on, they do all their main stuff on Spotify, and they were saying that if you look at our home form this season, yes, we've talked about the one lost one, but we've drawn 6 games.
yeah.
So I think we've won 6, drawn 6, and lost 1.
Yeah, you're better off losing 2 more, aren't you? And then winning the
Yeah,
other 4.
so it's
Yeah.
not that good.
No, I know what you mean. I mean, you can argue it as undefeated, but really, when you've been the kind of team that usually beats everybody at home, yeah. I mean, look recently as well. This is the other thing as well about recently. Teams around us, we've only got 3 points from the last 4 games. 3 draws and a loss in the last 4 league games, and you get that upturn in form in terms of you got the win against Leicester, wasn't it? Then Everton, and you think you're doing well, and you think you've kind of responded, and then okay, the Arsenal draw was pretty good, but you've obviously got West Ham, should really have won that. Wolves shouldn't really have lost that game, really. Away. I know it's difficult derby, but you know what I mean. And then you've got to be beating Ipswich, and that's a massive difference. All of a sudden, you're taking 3 points. Newcastle have lost 3 of the last 4 games. They're ahead of us. It was a big opportunity to capitalise on that gap between us and them, and to overhaul them. I think Fulham have maybe won 3 of the last 4 games, and then they've gone ahead of us now. It's and I keep thinking at some point we'll sort it out. I remember early in the season we were talking, saying, "Oh, despite not playing great, we're doing okay." And for that Everton game and that Wolves game, when we came back from behind, but we'll sort it out soon. Unai will sort it out soon. And we're, Valentine's Day's gone. We're nearly at the end of February, and we're still massively inconsistent. And I just wonder whether it's going to be let's see what we can get out of these cups soon. That's all we're going to have to play for, and then you're only, God, this is going to be the most negative thing I've ever said. Then you're only like one bad performance in the away leg of the Champions League, away from it being all on the FA Cup, and that's obviously a one-off game. We've got plenty of time. There's plenty of points available. I think we got to get some of these players back. And the problem we've got is at the moment is it seems like the injury list is getting worse.
Well, Kamara's out for minimum of 2 weeks now.
Yeah, Anana's nowhere near, I think, fitness. Barkley's still not got a return penciled in. Bailey's obviously out with an injury. Not that that massively affects you, but, you get my point.
Well, I think it
Torres,
does. I think it
Konza.
does. I think it massive. I don't. Marlon was good for 10 minutes on Saturday, but he's a new player. I'm absolutely not writing him off. He was very good against Tottenham, and he was good in parts. But what it takes away from you is an option. It takes away a Bailey to come on for Marlon or a Marlon to come on for a Leon Bailey. So it does massively affect us.
Mm. Impact sub, I guess, yeah. But
Yeah.
and then you've obviously got your Konza and your Torres and your Cash as well. There's some seriously, I mean, we've said recently, haven't we? Like, a lot of the players in the team, it's been a very different starting lineup, a very different finishing lineup, but a lot of players that have, of course, at times flattered to deceive this season, but there's a lot of quality there that would add a lot of difference. I mean, look at the example now. Kamara's out for the Liverpool game, and the Chelsea game, he'll be out for that, and so will Disasi. So then what are you doing? Because if Konza isn't back and Torres isn't back, then you're playing Bogard and Mings, if Mings is fit enough to get through it.
Is
Only
that the
Mings,
11th centre-back partnership?
yeah, you only Mings having a little bit of a relapse from his recent injury away from having, Bogard and, I don't know, Dean, you're at centre-half against Liverpool. And then the centre midfield situation right now, is it going to be Bogard, Tielemans and McGinn, maybe as the two holders against Liverpool? Oh, I think I dropped out then for a quick sec. So I just think there's a lot of problems right now, and at a time when we need these players back, we're actually losing more players, and it's causing more and more stress. Weirdly, the attacking options, we've got loads, but we can't seem to put the ball in the net. Maybe we need to play some of these players, left back or something, and try something different. Play Asensio.
Well, this is where it's all linked, because a secure defence gives you the confidence and security to take your chances. It's a weird combination, because you feel under pressure to put these chances away because you know you're weaker at the back, which means that you snatch at shots, you snatch at efforts, and you make it easier for the goalkeeper to save, or you put it over, or you try and put too much power on it, or you don't put enough power on it. Whereas if you are secure with the defence, and you know that you're keeping clean sheets, you know that your defenders are in form and they're settled, you will be more confident, because you know that one of these chances that you put away, you're more than likely to win 1-0. But at the minute, we know that not only do we have to score the first goal, but we know that if we concede, we have to score at minimum 2 goals a game to win the game, and that's what's so difficult at the minute.
Yeah, and also, has there ever been a team in world football that has hated having to play against 10 men more than Aston Villa? Because we've got a turgid record when we have to play against 10 men. I really felt like, this new era of Aston Villa, 10 men, Ipswich at home, come on, we've got this. And it was as hard as it ever is. It was as hard as it ever is. It was just try and break us down. You can't. They were racing to every ball, making it hard for us. And yeah, I think we might have had more chance if I'd kept 11 on the pitch.
Yeah. Sharik is in the house with his positivity, as always. Maybe realism. Summer signings, crap. No chance of Champions League football. PSR issues for the summer, even with Duran Sale. Watkins still missing 3 open goals before he scores 1. Then he gets sad if we sign another striker. WTF.
I mean, you make some good points, Sharik. Absolutely. We can obviously look at this through a negative or positive lens, but I think the time now has come to we just got to be a bit more realistic about it. I am a blindly optimistic Villa fan, and I believe that there's loads to play for, but we have to, in the words of Roy Walker from Catchphrase, say what we see, and what we see is a porous defence. Watkins missing chance after chance after chance, giving away silly goals. Ridiculous things on set pieces, being all over the shop and throwing points away.
Not enough goal contributions from the likes of McGinn, Tielemans, etc., which we covered. Yeah. Rich, with the 199 super sticker, thank you very much, my friend. Top man, thank
Thanks,
you
mate.
so much. Make sure you smash the like button, people. Hit the subscribe button as well if you're new to the channel. And yeah, we've got nearly 100 watching on YouTube, only 25 likes. So come on, guys, smash the like button. It doesn't cost anything, and it'll help spread the word of the channel to everyone that we possibly can. So let's have a bit of positivity, and then before we get to some of the questions from the viewers watching, you're always a man of positivity. We've obviously got a number of games coming, and that can lead to some momentum if you can pick up some results. And I think AVFC's Stato put in something like the next 6 fixtures that we've got. Let me just see if I can find them. So we've got Liverpool at home, Chelsea at home, Palace away, Brentford away, then Brighton away, not till 1st of April, and then Nottingham Forest at home. So those are the next 6 games. Now, we've talked about that. Teams around us in terms of Liverpool, Chelsea, well, not Liverpool aren't necessarily around us, but you get my point. Liverpool, Chelsea, Brentford, Brighton, and Forest in particular. Is there a sense of positivity there, like in terms of number of points we can win from those games? And I guess the next point is that you did touch on it before. Newcastle have lost a number of games, like 3 in a row. Chelsea can't seem to put any sort of consistency together. So is it a case of all the teams in and around this kind of 5th, 6th, 7th spot are kind of tripping each other up to try and finish in that? Is that one of our hopes as well? I know I've asked you about 3 questions in the space of like 30 seconds there, but try your best to answer all of them.
I'll answer a different question, shall I?
Yeah.
I think it must be a bookie's nightmare at the moment, the Premier League. It must be a bookie's nightmare because I look at those run of fixtures and part of my brain goes, wow, we play better against the better teams. So actually, maybe if you are playing a Brighton and a Liverpool and a Chelsea, then you're more likely to get points. And then part of my brain goes, could easily get battered in all of those games, and I don't know which way it's going to go. I've got a funny feeling we're going to beat Liverpool. I think they're maybe a little bit off it at the moment compared to they've got the Plymouth result, you've got the Everton result, and they've not had a blip this season really. Maybe that is the blip, and they come back roaring against us. But I just feel like when the back's against the wall, there will be a bit more space behind maybe that we can do our damage. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I predict us to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if we lost by a few goals based on some of the areas that we make. I can't really answer the question properly because Villa are just so crazily inconsistent. But so the other teams. The other thing is this: you could play actually not very well and get a win against the Chelsea at the moment or a Brighton because when they have a bad day. So therefore, have you done really well if you're a 6 out of 10, but they happen to be a 3 out of 10? So I know a win's a win and all that, but mate, I don't know. I don't know what to say. We could be in a situation. Let me just make this final point. We're 8 points ahead of Spurs, but obviously our goal difference isn't particularly great. They've won the last 2. We've got 1 point from the last 2. If all of a sudden we're playing Chelsea and we're playing Liverpool, right, you could easily lose those. And Spurs have got Ipswich, and then they've got a home match against a Man City. I mean, we could be only 2 points ahead of Spurs by sort of a week or so time. And when they've been turgid, get rid of Ange. Oh my God, stop it! We could be the bottom half of the league. Although we could win both games and get ourselves nearly in the top 5. But which way is it going to go, mate? I don't know. I'm not having a bet on it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, I just think like it doesn't really matter who the results are against or where it comes. I think we get something around the 8-point mark from those 6 games. I think the general gist of it is we've kind of floated around 8 and 10 points every 6 games. 10 points if we're doing well, 8 points if we're kind of being average, which is kind of what we have been. Like you said, we could go and beat Liverpool, and then we could draw against Chelsea, and then we could go and stink the place out away at Palace on the Tuesday night. And then we're saying, oh, well, we had injuries, we had this, we had that. Like, it's the excuse making that annoys me. And we're kind of getting into the stage of like, oh, yeah, well, we're still in the FA Cup, we're still in the Champions League. But as you've said there, the knockout football, you're 1 game away from your season being completely ruined. And are we just going to put all our eggs in that basket to say, like, oh, well, we might finish We might do well in the Champions League. We might win the FA Cup. Like, there's nothing to suggest that that's going to happen. Not our recent record in the FA Cup is we're actually in uncharted territory. So that is not something to bank your chips on. Absolutely not. So this is the difficulty, that the recent, if you took the chunk of 6-game blocks, other than right at the start of the season, we've probably been about 8, 9, 10 points. 10 points if we've been doing well. 8 or 9 has been the general kind of gist of it, and that's the frustrating thing. It'll be a great point against a great 3 points potentially against Liverpool, but then we'll go and mess it up against Palace or Brentford.
18 points incoming from these 6 games, mate. Come on. Let's. No, I mean, look. The thing I was going to say as well is we've got a crap record again away from Palace, haven't we? So the next 3 games this month, you've got Chelsea, who've been better in recent times, definitely better against us. They've basically been much better than us in the last few times we played them. Liverpool goes without saying, and then Palace away, where we've been pretty poor. The last time we went to Palace away, I know it was Champions League pie celebration day, but an unbelievably embarrassing 5-0 reverse against them on the last day of the season. So not easy games. You'd be expecting, you'd think, to win at least one of those home games, but it's time to see what kind of fight the players have got now.
Well, that's it.
I mean, because we talk about the cup football being, on the toss of a coin. We have to have something to play for in the league, and we will have something to play for if we're trying to get Europa or Conference League football still. And I don't think that's going to go any way. You can put a run of 3 or 4 wins together, later in the season and put yourself in a different position. But we're still alive for top 5. I'm a rapper. We're still alive. Hold tight. We're still alive for top 5. But we need to get a couple of wins. When we did it in December. And then we've taken 3 points from 4 games, 3 draws and a loss in 4 games.
Well, it tells you that tells you that we're not going to get the top. I'm sorry, we're not going to get it. I'll say it now. I said it on. And I'm not being negative. I don't want to be negative. And I know, people on Twitter and all that, Villa fans, so negative about Villa. Not particularly about me. But it's just be real. If you don't hold the players to the standards that we expect, then they're never going to improve. We aren't going to. There's no way we're getting 5th. Absolutely no chance.
I think, despite the inconsistency, because the league is wildly inconsistent, and there's 39 points available, and we're 5 points behind, I think you've still got to believe it's absolutely on. I know the reality is that we've been very, very poor at times this season, but you're only at 4 points from Liverpool and Chelsea away from looking at it through a very, very different lens. Likelihood is absolutely
But we'll win those 2 games, but we'll lose the next 2. That's what I'm saying. Have we won 4 games in a row this season? Someone will tell us in the chat. Have we won 4 Premier League games in a row this season?
No, I can tell you that for a fact we haven't. I'm sure we
So
haven't.
you have to do that if you want any aspiration of finishing in the top 5 or 6. You have to be able to string 4 or 5 wins together. If you want to finish top 4, you've got to string 7, 8 wins to get together in a row.
I can't think of us winning 3 Premier League games in a row this season unless someone can tell me otherwise.
No, let's just. I wanted to try and end on some positivity, but I haven't done any positivity. But yeah, fifth. So John Townley put out, with 13 games left to play and 39 points to fight for. The average points totals from the last 10 Premier League seasons for positions 5th to 8th and what Villa require to meet them. So 5th, you need 68 points. So that's 30 points from 39 possible. 6th is 63 points. That's 25 points from a potential 39. 7th is 59 points. That's 21 points from 39. And then 8th is 55 points, which is 17 points from 39. Me personally, I think we come somewhere in between the 20 to 23 point. That's my choice. I just can't see that. I can't see us getting 30 points from a possible 39. I just can't see it. But having said that, sorry, I just froze there. I don't necessarily see Newcastle or Forest or
Mm.
maybe Man City could do it, but there's teams there that I don't see getting that number, but they are 4 or 5 points ahead of us. Don't forget, and that's the other point.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, in terms of consistency, actually, I had a little look there while you were sort of doing your last bit, and 31st of August we beat Leicester, didn't we? In that away win, and then we won the next game against Everton. That comeback, we beat Young Boys away. Then we beat the other comeback win against Wolves. Then we beat Wickham away. So there was 5 wins in a row. Admittedly, that there was a Wickham and another cup game in there. So there's
3 in
5
the
wins,
Premier League.
3 in the Premier League in a row, and then we again inconsistency starts. We drew at Ipswich the next game. Then all of a sudden, brilliant. We beat Bayern Munich. Then we draw at Man United. Then we beat Fulham away. We think we're back. Then we beat Bologna. We think we're back. Then we do that draw against Bournemouth. And it's like, just when you think you're getting your head of steam going, but we have had moments this season where we put some good results together. Maybe the other thing is this. Maybe we need these new players to start to gel and to work it out. Get a couple of injuries back. You know what? I know it's going to sound crazy, right? I do think we've been poor, and I do think we've been inconsistent, and I do think we've missed big chances. We've been defensively bad, and I do think that we've been just tactically poor in some games. But I also think we've been unlucky. I think we've been unlucky we've mentioned some worldies, some goalies. I think we've had some particularly bad refs. I know maybe that's a Villa fan saying that about Villa performances. I think we've been unlucky with like a couple of deflections. I think we've been unlucky in terms of just a few little things that I think you could look at differently and think, that Marlon goal against Wolves, maybe that's a different result if that goes in. And I just think there's a combination of a few things where maybe every team's going to go, piss off, mate, get the violins out. We've all got our problems and stuff. But, no fit centre backs. I sound like Ange Postecoglou, don't I? I'm all about accountability, right? I'm all about being, humility, accountability. But maybe it's just a combination of a little bit of bad luck. And if that luck does slightly turn, Watkins converts a few more of his chances. Midfield cracking with a couple of goals. One of Asensio or Rashford or Marlon, all of them catch fire. A couple of defensive reinforcements back. Maybe you could put a run of 3 or 4 wins together. And the thing is this is what gives me hope. Doing that builds momentum. We know that as a Villa fan base because we did it to an unbelievable level under Dean Smith when we looked like we were down and out in that league in March. And then all of a sudden we won 10 games in a row. Now, I'm not saying we're going to do that, but I do think if you get 2 or 3 wins, you can build a head of steam, maybe. But the time frame, that window of opportunity is getting smaller and smaller as the season kicks on. But I'm just going to keep that little bit of positivity alive, that candle flickering in my brain just a little bit longer.
Yeah. Let's go through some comments because there's been so many. And Sharik did give us a £2 super chat that I've got to read out. Sharik, yeah, pack of crisps on me. Watkins wouldn't finish them. I've got to read it out. Let's have a look. So Gary said, "Where did you?" Oh, hang on. Gary says, "Where did you have us finishing at the beginning of the season?" I said 7th. I'd take it now in a cup final. I think I said 6th.
I said 3rd.
I'm pretty sure I said 6th.
Making me look like an idiot at the moment.
Yes. Rich said, "Keeping on going like this, Rich, you'll take Sam over as the negative energy on the panel." I'm just realist, mate. I'm the what's to say? I don't want to go on about it, but the past, the body of evidence that we've produced at this moment in time in the 20 or so 23, 24 games that we've had so far this season don't indicate to me that we're going to all of a sudden change our form to win 6 or 7 games in a row. That's all I'm saying. And yes, it could happen. Yes, Asensio, Rashford could kick us into gear. That, the really positive. I guess the positive is that we have these games in quick succession, as we talked about the other day, Kev. That if you do get a couple of wins, that momentum carries you through, and that's, I guess, what we can cling on to. But at the moment, it's a cling on, for want of a better phrase. But let me just get back into the comments. Drista says, "We have Chelsea, Forest, Newcastle, Fulham at home. These games are a must win, but we don't have room for error anymore." David said, "We need next level players now to take us on the next step." Kevin said, "Geez, he's got to be. He's the namesake of you, and he's the positive. He's not accepting anything other than positivity."
Come on, Kev. I agree.
Paul says, "Guys, can I say that's the way we are?" Lol. He's saying that we are going to finish 4th. Kev Jean said Newcastle, Bournemouth, and Forest have dropped points. The key is our home form. Ideally, we beat these, and suddenly those 5 points have evaporated. Maybe. Villain Man Zero says, hope so, Paul, but I think I'd take a 6th if it was. And I've just stopped there. My internet is a bit dodgy tonight. Dean is saying the like, comments, subscriptions, and sharing. This is the way we grow this channel, Villains. Support the movement. Good man. Big ups to you, Rich. Large ups to you, Kev. Up the Villa.
Thanks,
absolutely.
Dean. Thanks, mate.
Absolutely. Just to finish up, and I know obviously we've talked and we've tried to be realism. We talked about the attack and what we've got some exciting attacking players. We've got Garcia who's doing well in the right back position as well, who's come in and done really well. We've got, like I say, Marlon who can come in and affect games. Asensio's been brilliant. Rashford's been brilliant. And yes, there's some issues in defence, but hopefully we can get into some momentum, and this Liverpool game can hopefully kick us on. And Chelsea are in poor form, maybe that can kick us on. However, we have turned up for one-off games a lot of the time when we talk about Man City at home, we talk about Bayern Munich, Celtic, Juventus, even where, like you said, we actually won that game. But there have been games where we've kind of turned up and we've been a moments team this season, for not to steal Steven Gerrard's phrase. So does that lend itself to, as Bear of the Garden says, concentrate on the Champions League and FA Cup? And James already said we are winning the Champions League. So is it a case that we are more of a cup side this season?
Well, Emery's traditionally more of a cup manager, isn't he? Based on, I guess, the types of teams he manages being a slightly lower elite tier team in terms of, not the major forces that have won leagues consistently in those sort of, those countries. PSG aside, probably, and Arsenal a few years before, obviously, he managed them when they were doing that. So, yeah, I think that probably is. And the fact that we're still alive in both those competitions, I think is fantastic. I mean, it is new ground for Aston Villa to be in Europe in the last 15 years, let alone to be in the Premier club competition. And, yeah, look, if we get past what will undoubtedly be a tricky tie in the round of 16, whoever we get, you're looking like it's going to be a Barcelona or Liverpool. So popped it up just as I said it. That was perfectly executed there. Nice one, Gary. But yeah, so that's obviously not going to be an easy tie if that's a two-leg encounter. The thing is, and this is where the positivity has to come in, hopefully towards the end, because otherwise I'm going to be crying myself to sleep tonight. I've got visions of you and Sam just sort of like in my dreams, just sort of, it's all crap, there's no point carrying on. Then Sharik walks in the room as well and starts saying, come on, Watkins,
with a bag of crisps.
With a bag of crisps, eating a bag of crisps, going, Watkins couldn't do this. But yeah.
Sam agreeing with him.
Sam agreeing, yeah, this is going to be a weird dreamscape later on in my brain's already crazy as it is. But we're in the FA Cup. We've got a really tasty draw in terms of what we could have asked for against Championship team, we fancy our chances to get ourselves to the quarterfinals, and where anything's happening then. We're still in the Champions League, and listen, someone's got to win it. And while you're still in it, when you've got a manager like Emery, anything's possible. And we're still alive. We're still within 2 wins of 4th spot in the league. And I know we've got used to it being fantastic over the years, and there's massive inconsistency. But this is new ground for Aston Villa to still be within 2 wins of the top 4 in mid-February. It is new ground for Aston Villa. And I know it's a bit of a glass half full type way of looking at it, but I don't know how else we can look at it. We're still alive for a league position, even if it is a Europa or Conference League finish.
Oh, mate, I'd take that now. I'd take top 7, 100%.
Yep. And we're still alive for 2 cup competitions. Often on this type of Villa podcast in recent years, you're talking about, can we stay up? Who do we need to beat? You imagine, I know it's a new era for us now and we can't think back to that, but imagine it was like, right, we've got 3 games left. We need a win. Who are we getting it from? Oh my God, can we get a win against Southampton away to stay in the league? It's new territory, and with that new territory comes expectation.
I don't want to go back to those. I don't want to resort to look where we were 5-6 years. We're not there. We're not
I know
there.
we're not there. I know we're not there. I guess I'm only doing that to frame the point
Yeah.
that we're alive in the FA Cup.
Yeah, no, I get you. You know, and we've got Cardiff at home, which you've got to say, you know, even with the games that we have in a row, you've got to say that is a great opportunity to get through and be in the quarterfinals. And then, as we said last week, I think there's 4 ties with all Premier League clubs, so that is a guaranteed 4 Premier League teams going out. So we've got a really good opportunity, if the draw is fairly kind to us, of being in the winning the quarter final and then being in a semi final. Anything can happen in that, even if you're coming up against a Man City or a
Yeah.
dare I say a Man United or someone like that. So, you know, that's absolutely something that we can do. Obviously, we've got to get past Cardiff first, and then you can start, you know, thinking, well, we're 2 games away from the final then. So
Yeah.
that's massive, massive. And as I say, I do think that we get into like a top. I do think we still finish in the top 6 or top 7, but I just think we really do have to start putting some results together. And it's no good sort of talking about, you know, oh, if we can do this, if we can do that. It's about time now. I'm sure that Emery and I'm sure the players will be talking about this, but it's about getting the basics right. And I think that's what's so infuriating. The basics we aren't doing the fundamentals. We aren't earning the right to play in games. We aren't getting ourselves set up to then show our quality in games. What we're doing is we're making sloppy and silly mistakes, putting pressure on ourselves with poor finishing that then leads us to be more desperate later on in games when we've seen our team be so confident, be so organized, be so dynamic out of the blocks at the start of games that we just want us to kind of get back to that. And in some ways, it doesn't really matter who's playing in the team because we had this 1 year ago, 2 years ago when Emery first come in. It didn't matter who was in the team. The fundamentals of the group ethos was the same. And those players did the same thing. They went onto the pitch and enacted the same thing. And that's what I want Villa to get back to because it feels a bit chaotic. It feels a bit rushed at the moment. And that's where I see, that's what I want to see us get back to. And that's where I think we can really get into European spots if we can find that again.
And Emery will have his frustrations as well. He'll be working towards next season. You know, we have to remember it is a project, and are you going to become a team that are on the edge of relegation to qualify for Europe, qualify for Champions League, and then just stay there consistently without having any hurdles, any hiccups, any bumps in the road? I think it would be unrealistic to think that would be the situation. And we've had bumps in the road this season, yet we're still alive in 3 competitions. And that is testament actually to the level of progression that we have made. But it's time now to see what Emery's made of in terms of this kind of situation for this club. It's time now to see what everyone else, all the rest of the staff, all of the players, the players that want to, you know, whether it's an Asensio, Rashford that might be pushing to get that move to be permanent. There's no guarantee Rashford's going to get himself a move to Barcelona, which he's been touted for. But if he does fantastic things for Aston Villa, he's got a chance of getting something maybe even greater than us if it doesn't work out for us keeping him. Asensio is looking to relight his career a little bit after he's gone a bit flat at PSG. You know, there's plenty of players in that team that want to stay around for that. I've said it many times in the past about, you know, the new sort of the new era of Aston Villa. But if you're a Jacob Ramsey or an Ian Matson or a Luca Digne or even a John McGinn or Tyrone Mings, is that the performances you put in now are going to be everything about what happens in the future.
Absolutely. And Gary, to end on that, says Emery always gets Europe. There's some positivity. So, yes, I kind of wanted it to be a bit like this tonight in terms of just getting a bit real, trying to understand where we were in terms of being consistently inconsistent, and talking about what might need to be fixed. And you know, it's been a good therapy session, if nothing else, after the frustration of Saturday and some previous games as well. But
Yep.
look, we all said it. The likelihood is that I can see us beating Liverpool, which would be a great result, if not a tad annoying, as I said before. But we'll maybe preview that tomorrow, whether that be a pre-record or whether that be a live show. So do keep your eye out for that. Guys in the chat, thank you so much for all of your comments. I've tried to get through as many of them as we possibly could. And been amazing questions, amazing comments in there as well. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel on your way out. Follow us at Villa Park Pod and at KTAVFC as well. We've got plenty of shows coming up for you. As I say, match preview for Liverpool. We've got match reaction to Liverpool. We've got match preview to Chelsea. We'll have reaction to the Champions League last 16 draw on Friday. I'm sure of it. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Plenty of shows coming up. Thank you all for watching. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa.